I just want to go through a conversation I had with a colleague in regards to using AI for compliance. And as a use case, I wanted to share with you is how to build out a project in ChatGPT so you can have your own compliance bot that allows you to write price justifications for government contracts. Now, this is a major problem with a lot of government contractors when they have to create a justification to justify a specific price in accordance with different government contract clauses, which we'll go through in the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or the DFAR, the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations. You have to justify your price so that the government knows that you're not pulling the wool over their eyes, right? So that's why we do this, and it's a requirement so that whenever you do that, so you have the right one. And a lot of folks struggle with building these out to make sure that it's compliant. So when you're audited, you actually pass the audit requirements. So let's walk through this process. I'll show you how to do it. That way you can exercise this on your own, build out your own project in ChatGPT that will allow you to write these price justifications. And this is what we do in ChainSkillz. So when you become a member of ChainSkillz, we go through different use cases. We figure out how to do the thing you need to get done. Then you can build it on your own and use it as you need to for your company. We do this following the scale methodology as well as the prompt methodology so that whenever we need to do something, you can do it. And the reason we do it this way is that there's so many different AI platforms out there right now that if we taught you one specific one without teaching you a process, then we could be setting you up for failure. Instead, we want to show you a process that you can apply to any specific AI platform. Hopefully this makes sense. So let's get to it. Let's talk about AI-powered price justification for government contracts. Now, what is price justification? It's a required document that is mandatory for all government contracts to make sure that we have fair and reasonable pricing. Now, it's regulatory compliance accordance with the Federal Acquisition Regulation and the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations accordance with the Defense Contracting Audit Authority, which goes through to make sure that things are done correctly. What is the price justification framework? You have government requirements, regulatory compliance, audit verification, and the contractor response. So what happens basically is you have to buy something that may or may not be on contract, and you have to justify the price. So the government contract administrator or the government contracting officer will reach out to you and say, hey, I need a price justification for this proposal you've sent us. So I need you to go ahead and write that out. And how do you do it? You write it out that you make sure that the proper justification leads to successful award so you can justify the price that you're giving the government. It can help you prevent any penalties or contract rejection. It's a regulatory compliance that you have to do, which could put your contract risk as well as make sure that we have the appropriate financial justification for any price adjustments that we include in our contract or get when we have a contract change or contract clause. Now, what is the flow? You do proper documentation. You make sure that you have a proper process and it goes through many different things and you have a successful reward and you're protected from an audit. What ends up taking is people take a lot of time researching the FAR, researching the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation, the DFAR, and responding to questions from the audit. And what we want to do with this AI is to reduce that time significantly. And we're going to show you how we do that. Why do we go through a price justification? What are the common challenges? Is that we have indirect cost allocations that we don't know how to properly adjust our overhead costs or G&A expenses. We don't have the right data to justify what we're trying to do. We don't have the right time or the right focus on building out the price justification, and the requirements are constantly evolving. So as soon as you do one, you have to do another. So as you can see, this requirement can build up and you have a lot of different things that can impact your time. And then you have to do price justifications all the time, or you assign one person that does it all the time. And by building and using AI, you're able to reduce that time significantly. Now, what are some of the obstacles we just talked about? Data collection. We don't have the right data information. The analysis is incomplete or is very subjective and is not able to meet the standard set by the Defense Contracting Auditing Authority. You don't have the right documentation and you're not able to defend your price justification properly. And when we use an AI-powered justification process, we're able to check for compliance to make sure it's compliant with the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation or the Federal Acquisition Regulation. We have the proper justifications because we know what correct is and what they're looking for. We reduce our time significantly, and we are more accurate every time that we do it. What's our workflow? We have data input, the actual price justification that you need. You do your analysis, then you write up a price justification, and then you verify that a human expert has done this correctly. Or basically, that's where the human comes into the process, is that a human verifies and makes sure that the AI output is correct, because ultimately we are held accountable for the result. Even if AI does it, we are accountable for that result. That's why we have to look at and read at everything that the AI produces. And that's where our expertise comes in place. Again, where this saves time is that it can go through thousands or 2,000 pages of the FAR like that, 1,000 pages of the DFAR like that. It can go through it so quickly that you couldn't possibly do it as a human unless you've read it and memorized it several times, right? So you're saving a lot of time. So what's the first step? You want to define what the AI role is and what the compliance requirements are. The AI can do the price analyst for you. It can make sure that things are compliant, and it can cost allocate validation, make sure that you properly allocate cost appropriately. So if you have a correct audit that's already been accepted, a price justification that's already been through the audit process and has been properly passed, then you're in a good position because you have an example of what it should be. And every company is different. Everybody has their process, but the FAR and the DFAR are consistent. That's the regulation that we're trying to meet, and that's the regulation we're trying to build. And so we go through this process. Step one, we upload the FAR and the DFAR to the project. So it's already embedded in our bot. It reads it, it understands it, and knows how to reference it when you need it. You do your data analysis. You bring in the contracts. You do the market research with AI using Perplexity or ChatGPT deep research. You establish a cost baseline, which brings in pricing reasonableness, bring that documentation. And because the bots now use sources, they show you where they have the information. You can actually grab those sources and include that in your file. And then you can do any risk assessment or a review of your price justification so that you know it's correct. Basically, upload your justification, say review this for any compliance issues, then tell me where those compliance issues are, and then we can build it out and correct it before we submit it. Step two is collect the data. We're going to collect all the direct, indirect costs, historical pricing data from our market research and market benches. So historical pricing data and market benchmark come from the internet itself, right? It comes from that internet, and we can use AI to do that research in seconds and minutes versus hours. We can tell the AI to do the proper analysis technique, regression analysis, variance identification, pattern recognition, market comparison. The AI can do all of this. And we're using desktop AI things that you can find on the internet right now. You may have your own AI embedded in your company. So these same processes apply because you have to build out and train your AI appropriately. And then you have your verification methods where you go through a FAR compliance checklist or a reasonable test and audit readiness assessment. Go through that process. Okay. When we collect our data, we have the contract details, cost data, and market data. AI processing, we tell it what to do. So you have to know what the proper processing is, tell it what it needs to look out for so it can do that regularly. Now, the first time you do this, it may take a little bit of time. But after you build it once and you build it again and you validate it and you use it and you teach it just like you would a new employee, then it gets faster and better, and it doesn't sleep, it doesn't eat, and it doesn't complain. It does exactly what you tell it to do. You can look at the results. If it makes sense, you can submit it, or you can say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Find all the compliance issues, and it will upload those compliance issues. And then it will create a price justification package for you that you can use to submit to your audit for those audit results. Now, step three is generate pricing justification. Do a cost element breakdown. Again, you're going to have to tell it what it to do first. Then it will learn and will do it faster and faster. So you can upload a spreadsheet, give it directions, say categorize the following cost data according to overhead and direct costs, and it will do that. Bring in the supporting documentation. So you'll upload the contract, you'll upload your market data and your benchmarks, you'll upload all that into your project, and I'll show you how to do that. And then you'll demonstrate how everything aligns with those prices. It's appropriate for the market. It's appropriate for a cost associated with that particular item. And then we can map out exactly why we did that price at that particular value and make sure it's compliant with the FAR and the DFAR. Now, the AI will generate a justification example for you, so it will show you exactly what you need to do. It'll break down the cost, it'll demonstrate the market comparison, and it will tell you why it's compliant or why it's not compliant. So you take action to make sure it is compliant. Step 4, we're going to execute and validate the AI outputs. What this means, once we've uploaded our data and we've asked for a price justification, if it looks reasonable, we can go with it. If it doesn't look reasonable, we can continue to work with the AI until we have the correct price justification. Because you have a correct audit from a previous audit, you already have that information. You can use that as an example. You can use that as your example, and then you're prepared for your audits. Go through your validation process. You'll use the FAR Part 15 compliance checklist. You'll do cost reasonable justification verification because you have market data and cost data. You'll have the appropriate documents, and you'll be prepared for an audit. We'll use a case study where we'll go through, and I'm going to show you how to build it. Then you can go through and try this on your own. The challenge here in this particular case study was a mid-size IT contractor needed to justify pricing for a complex $5 million federal contract, which would have taken weeks to do this, right? You'd have to collect the data, analyze the data, write out your justification. And when you use AI, you're able to analyze labor rates in seconds, in minutes. You're able to analyze overhead structures and appropriate profit margins. So as a company, you can develop that data for a quarter, upload that, and use it again and again and again. It can produce the results. And as the results are not correct, you can make those corrections, and the AI learns how to do that. So the next time it won't make the same mistake again. Again, you have the idea and the assumption is that you have justifications that have passed audits in the past. So you can use those examples to help train your bot to make sure that it's correct. And then you go through the process, collect the data, do the AI analysis, justify, generate the justification, review it with your audit folks, the DCAA, make sure it's correct. If it's not, fix it, teach the AI. Next time, it won't make the same mistakes again. Notice this last step, expert review. Again, this is where the human comes into play and cannot be replaced. Key takeaways, AI reduces your time by 90%. You're confident in the compliance because you've shown the AI how to do compliance using the appropriate regulation. Key note, make sure you're using the latest and greatest federal acquisition regulation and defense federal acquisition regulations so that you're not using old regulations. This year, you're going to download the appropriate ones. It'll work. But next year and the following years, you're always going to want to go back and make sure that the justification is there. And then you'll look at the data and drive your justification. Benefits, again, 90% saved in time. You're at 99% compliance rate, cost reductions 30%, and you're having faster awards because you're able to do this faster. Time goes to the winner, right? If you're able to do this faster than your competition, you're able to meet the needs of the auditors faster, then they can move on to somebody else because they know you're having stuff together. All right. So to learn how to do this, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do this, build out a project to show you exactly what to do, and then you can practice doing this on your own. Again, when you join ChainSkillz, we do this on a weekly basis where we look at different use cases and we build out the scenario inside the AI, whichever AI platform is appropriate. We tell you which ones and why it's appropriate. We also give you the prompts and we help you understand how to use them. Then on Fridays, we do office hours where we can go through and see exactly where you're having issues and correct those specific issues. Okay. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me at ChainSkillz or on LinkedIn. And right now, what I'm going to do is show you how to use ChatGPT so that we can be successful and build these out. So first thing you want to do is you're going to log into ChatGPT and come over here. Let me log out, log in, log out. Okay. Come back in. This is where you're going to log in. Let's go ahead and log back in just so you can see how the process works. You're going to log in, use your Google, whatever you want to log in, your company. And now if you've got an enterprise edition of the OpenAI ChatGPT, you should look very similar. If you don't have an enterprise edition, there's ways you can use this and still be compliant. You're worried about security. So when you're worried about security, come over to your idea here and go into settings, all right? And you have data controls and you can turn this off where it says improve the model for everyone. If you turn that off, it's not going to share your data with the world. It's not going to become part of the bigger AI platform. It's going to be able to keep your data safe. If you have a team version or an enterprise version, your data is built in, so you don't have to worry about this. All right. So that's how you keep it safe. And then over here, you have all the different chat GPTs that you built, which we'll talk about during ChainSkillz, how to build your own. And then you have Explore GPTs, which is where other people have built GPTs that you can use for different purposes, and I use them all the time. Projects, and then here is your history of different ChatGPT that you've used. Now, what we want to do is build a project. The reason we build a project is so we can upload documents one time, and once at one time, give the bot instructions and then run different scenarios on those instructions. So the way you do that, we're going to start from scratch. I built one here. We're going to start from scratch, put a plus, build a project. We're going to put FAR price, justification, analysis creator, okay, in accordance with the FAR and DFAR. And it's just so too many quiet, man. Everybody's got a problem, don't they? All right, good to go. So create the project, and then let's walk around the project and show you exactly what we got going on here. I'm going to close this. Okay, so then we have our ChatGPT inside a project. You have your regular GPT where you're going to give it instructions, files, which will include the DFAR, the FAR, and any data that you have. You're going to put that here, like your overhead data, your direct cost data, anything that you would set up for, let's say, a quarter. You can do this by quarter, by month. However quickly that your data changes, you can drop those files in here. That way they can be referred to again and again and again. And we'll show you how to do that in a second. Then you add your instructions where you build out instructions to tell it exactly to do. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add files. And I went ahead and I found the FAR right there. It's about 2,000 pages. All right. And we have the DFAR, the Defense Acquisition Regulations. We're uploading that. I mean, just to show you the extent of these documents. All right. You can see how many pages do we have here? Okay, let's go down through here. Okay, I think it's over 2,000 pages in this document, right? Okay, yeah, you can see lots and lots of pages, lots of information. They're all broken up, and all that information is here that you can tap into right there. Okay, and it's reading this stuff now. It's analyzing it, so it knows where to go, as well as the DFAR. You get more information here. A lot of this information is already uploaded, and it's reading it and it's understanding it. Okay, so we add these files. Again, if we had direct cost data, we would put that in here. And if we had, when we have direct cost data, we have indirect cost data, we can add all those files so we can reference it on a regular basis. Next, we're going to add instructions. There's a couple ways to build instructions. You can build these out, or you can use a GPT to build your instructions. And what I did before this presentation is I went in and I actually built out the GPT instructions so that we have those quickly. Right here, this is what they look like. This is what instructions look like, so that you can see what they look like. Basically, you tell the bot what the mission is, you tell them what the responsibilities are, understanding the regulatory frameworks, DFARs, the FAR. You tell it to do a price analysis review in accordance with the appropriate regulation. So it goes into the regulation, it finds it, evaluates contractor submissions, ensures compliance, all right, accordance with the FAR, right? Risk identification and fraud detection, expanded instructions for government contractors, writing price analysis justifications. So this is where you're going to write out your price justification. Okay, it's going to actually write that. So at the end of your analysis, you say produce a price analysis justification report, and it'll go through and it'll do that. Use best practices, final additions, okay, best in class instruction set. So that's where we added. It'll do risk-based price analysis. It'll look at the government audit checklist. It'll give you a decision tree for selecting the right price analysis method, the DCA, DCMA expectations, and then these are the instructions. You take all these instructions, okay, gonna copy, put them in here, boom. Now, if you want these instructions, just email me. I'll be happy to send them to you, okay, so that you can use these at your leisure, okay? You go on LinkedIn, Randall Malden at LinkedIn, or just send me an email at randy@chainskillz.com. And I'll be happy to help you out with these instructions. So once you save these, you've uploaded this. Okay, now it's reading this. Say, great, let's give it a test. Hey, I need a price justification for, let's go with raw material of aluminum. Okay, I need, let's say 1 ton in rod form for a project, and need to provide price justification in accordance with the FAR and DFAR. First, outline your process. Then we will begin. Ask me any questions. Now, I always add this last part, ask me any questions, because then the bot can use its in-house information to make sure that the instructions I'm giving them, whether good or bad, it's going to get clarity. It's going to find out exactly what it really needs. And we're going to give that information right there. So go through and look at it. It's going through, it's reading the FAR, it's reading the DFAR, If I had overhead cost, I would tell it to go look at that. I would do all that stuff, and I would build that out. I don't have that for your particular organization, but we can build that out. Now it's going to create an outline for our process. And it's going to, as you can see here, it's telling me exactly what to do, telling me where to go. So it's read these. Okay. Now, as a human, I can pull up our regulations, which we have here. I can go in, I can research and verify that the bot did it correctly. I can look at the proper DFAR. Again, same thing, verify everything is done correctly. Okay. Appropriate price analysis method. We'll look at that based on the data that we can find. Notice it has price comparison analysis, historical pricing data, parametric estimating, catalog or market prices, or independent government cost estimate. That's where the government would actually tell you what they're doing. They'll conduct its market research, identify suppliers, aluminum rods that meet DFAR's regulation, right? Identify cost drivers, justify the price reasonableness, document, prepare the report. Here's your report. And then we'll go through the next step. So now it's asking me clarifying questions that I can use. And what I do is I normally copy those and paste those here, and then I'll answer them one by one to make sure that I answer those questions correctly. Do you have a vendor quote, or should I provide guidance on how to obtain them? I do not have a quote. Is it for commercial or defense related contract? Defense related. Will the aluminum rod be sourced domestically or foreign procurement required? Domestic procurement required. If not available, then we can go to a foreign source. Are there any specific cost elements you want to highlight or exclude? Not at this time. Well, okay, so now it's going through and it's working through this process. Okay, see it's searching the web. You're starting to look for specific suppliers. All right, we're finding some suppliers, looking for a detailed request for quotation that's going to tell us where to send, what the quotation is. Now, a lot of us as buyers or procurement analysts, we may not understand exactly what the requirement is as far as the specifications. So you can actually take this, send it to the engineers to make sure that it's going to meet the specifications that they require. You don't have to think about this. You don't have to guess. You can use this, verify it, and make sure. Now the engineer is going to look at it and say, yeah, this makes sense. Or, hey, we were missing this, this, and this. So in the future, you tell the bot, hey, these 5 things were right, but you're missing these 3 things. Make sure you add this in the future. And they'll say, okay. Distribute the RFP to select the suppliers. Gives you the contact page, where to go. Check that out. Okay. Exactly where we need to go. Get our quote. Evaluate. Now we're going to have to wait for the quotes to come back. Once the quotes come back, then we'll upload it back into this particular project again and pick up right where we left off. Now, that's the value and the benefit of using a bot like this. So at this step, we would go out, we would actually go in, we request those quotes, and then we would wait for those quotes to arrive. As they arrive, I would then add them to my project, right? I would drop them in here, or I can add them, upload, drop them right in. Or I can do a search if I need to do a search, and as well as image or canvas. We'll use those later when we actually create the report. Okay, so that gets you started. What I'm showing you is here in a matter of 3 minutes. I've got a solid plan to build out a price justification with sources that all I need to do is fill out these quote request pages and get the quotes, and then I can pick right back up where we left off. And when it comes to building a project, I come back in here. Notice it's right here. So all I have to do is click this. It opens it right back up, and I can pick right back up where I left off. So I'm sharing this example with you to demonstrate how AI platforms can save you a lot of time. Now, when I've done this in the past and when I've assigned people to do this in the past, a price justification would take at least half a day, if not longer, depending upon the complexity of the particular thing that we were trying to justify. By using AI, I've cut this time down at least by 2 or 3 hours because it found the resources, it gave me the contact information, and I can fill it out. Now, there's also ways to automate filling these things out, but that's for another class. When you join ChainSkillz, we would talk about those specific things as well. So I hope this was helpful. I wanted to demonstrate how we can use ChatGPT and platforms like ChatGPT to help us with price justifications for government contracts. If you found this useful, reach out to me and let me know on LinkedIn or put comments below in the description. Go ahead and place your comments there. And if you want the instructions, the FAR, the DFAR, just let me know. I'll be happy to send those to you. Again, Randy at ChainSkillz.com, and we'll make sure that you get what you need. Join our program. We do this every single week, go through different prompts and different use cases so that you can be successful using AI. And what I can tell you is that if you don't start using AI somebody who is will replace you. And in Randy's world, what I see procurement teams developing into teams of one with multiple bots doing the functions of team members you have today. So be a forward thinking supply leader so that you can remain relevant during the AI revolution, being part of the solution, not somebody that's going to be left behind because you refuse to adapt. And in ChainSkillz, this is where we teach you these skills so that you can remain relevant and be the expert when everyone else is asking questions. Hope you found this useful, and we'll talk to you soon.